Okay, August 5th, 2021, 9 a.m. Finance Committee. Amanda, could you call the roll, please?
Alt.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
McTaggart.
Yes. Call the meeting to order. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Hughes, seconded by Charlie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda's approved. Public comments. Don't have any public comments. We'll move on to Myron Munyon and the liability general insurance update.
Everything is in, it's getting rated for the vote. We have votes in time for the request.
Okay.
Anything for me? Questions?
You guys have anything? I don't think so. Thank you. Susie?
Okay, so we do have the renewal in from Health Alliance. It did come in at 9.9%. Delta Dental came in at 3.2%, so not too bad there. Vision, we don't have any increase, but it doesn't renew, I should say, until December of 2022. And then I'm just waiting on that life renewal to come in. So last year we did have that 17% increase that the county took on. You guys did receive the $80,000 transitional credit check from Health Alliance. This year they capped the renewal at 9.9. I will have everything in for the bid packet, as well as alternates and all that good stuff turned in on time for you guys as well. Any questions?
What did you say the dental was?
3.2%. Yeah. So it just went up literally like 50 cents an employee only. It wasn't bad at all.
That doesn't impact us. Okay.
No, that's
100%
voluntary,
paid back.
right.
Okay.
So the only thing that would affect you guys would be that
The
Health
life.
Alliance and then the life insurance if
Yeah.
you do have an increase on that.
Okay.
Any questions for me? Okay.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. See you later.
Okay. Department head reports. Kurt?
We did our first tax distribution last week. So the next second installment is due September 7th. And other than that, it's been pretty quiet, a little too quiet.
It's all right.
Maybe everybody will just come in at once, hopefully.
And Kurt, maybe Kurt's not the person, but it just got me thinking about, I saw the fund balances or whatever here and things.
Cash balance.
Did you hear us when we were talking, I don't remember if that was, it was last week, one of those days. I don't remember if you were here at that time or not, but we were talking about potentially looking at trying to get some metrics and maybe talking to Hope with the auditors and CLA and stuff, and trying to figure out where we're supposed to target some of these fund balances, especially the big ones. Like, do we have too much money, not enough money, and that
Well,
kind of
anything
stuff.
that's, we got like from my old auditing days.
Yeah.
Anything that's like a specific line item, like I think Social Security and all of them, you should have at least 2 years worth of expenditures in a fund balance. Anything greater than that, you need to either spend down or somebody can come back and say they want, why do you need so much, you need a refund. So like if we've got what's 3 million in one Social Security or something, or IMRF.
IMRF.
So technically, if you look at your expenses, if your expenses for the year is $600,000, then times 2, you should really only have no more than 1.2 or 1.5. So anything larger than that, so like when you do the levy this fall, you need to just drop it down quite a bit. I mean, or else you could levy a little bit, but you need to start using up. And the problem is when it's a specific line item like that or a levy, you can't transfer the money anywhere else. It's got to be used for that purpose.
Right. Well, yeah, and so getting clear on those things, and then I thought, and this is what we were talking about last week, and I can't remember exactly, so what I'm about to say I'm sure is wrong, but I remember when Kyle and Anita were here, which was before either Jill or you were here, but we were looking at fund balances, and there was some recommendation, I don't remember if it came from Hope and the auditors or who it did, and it was like, we needed to have 6 months for the IMRF and stuff is probably a little bit different with the retirement, but like for the health department fund or whatever it was, there was a recommended amount that somebody had recommended that you only have that much in there. And I know that was one of the things that led to, over the years, they were cutting back on the
On the levy?
for the health department or whatever, because their numbers were really high. I don't remember I guess what we were talking about last week was maybe we should get, especially on these bigger ones, some targets in mind or something so that we can look at it, because yeah, the fund balance, yep, it looks like there's a lot of money, but is that too much? Is that too much or not enough, or do we need to do something different? And I think to some degree, I feel like, and maybe you guys don't, we're like flying in the blind on that. So if we had a little better
Sure.
parameters around that, it'd be a good thing.
I think on last year's audit didn't, folks, that was one of the audit findings was, I think, like, on IMRF, Social Security, that you start lowering the levy amounts to.
Right.
Yeah,
some
just
of the-
IMRF was the only one that was mentioned that was
Okay.
Right.
being
Well,
lower.
But usually, like I said, it's usually 2 times a year for expenses is what they usually recommend.
Okay, anyways, we need to work on that, but, Eric, you're the man of the hour, I think.
Yeah, have a few things. Some of you from yesterday judicial already got this, so I won't. I won't be reissuing those to those folks, but bear with me here. It's with mixed emotions and sadness and joy that I announce I will be retiring as sheriff of Iroquois County effective September 30th, 2021. For almost 29 years, I've called law enforcement my career and one of my life dreams. My career has been blessed with hardworking and dedicated coworkers who care about the citizens we serve and the communities we live in. I have the utmost confidence that the committed men and women of the Iroquois County Sheriff's Office will continue to provide professional and capable services to those they serve. It has been my honor to serve as the Iroquois County Sheriff for the last 11 years. I have an opportunity to start a new chapter in my life and a new career. As the expression goes, time waits for no one, and the timing of this opportunity is sooner rather than later. I wish the Iroquois County Board the best as it navigates the future of Iroquois County. There will be difficult decisions, and I hope the focus is on what's best for the citizens you serve. God bless you all. As for what happens now, Deputy Sheriff Clint Krzee is my designation of successor to fill a vacancy of sheriff. The designation is pursuant to Public Act 91-0633, which is also Illinois Compiled Statutes 55-5/3-3010, was filed with the Iroquois County Clerk on May 17th of 2021. The 2 attached pages to that shows the filing of the designation of successor, and it shows the citation from the Illinois Compiled Statutes on how that happens. What that means in a nutshell is this. I'm going to retire September 30th, and October 1st, per my designation of successor, Clint Krzee will be the sheriff. The board then will await a recommendation from the Republican Party, probably the Central Committee of the Republican Party. Since I was elected as a Republican is going to have to be appointed to fulfill the next 14 months after I leave. So Clint will act as sheriff until that appointment is made and confirmed and qualified. My recommendation is that Clint be appointed by the board. That's my opinion. Obviously, the Republicans have their due diligence to go through the process and give the county board chairman a name of a person to be appointed that is qualified, and then the board votes on it as a whole. So I think it would be a very smooth transition for Clint to be confirmed as the appointment. He's running for sheriff. He's been there 20-some years. He knows the ins and outs of it. He's, I believe, got the best interest of Iroquois County and the sheriff's office at heart. So that's where we're at as far as that goes. I am going to be staying in the community. I've been asked not to disclose what it is I'm going to be doing in my new career, other than it's not going to be law enforcement. But I am gonna be local, I'm still gonna be living in Iroquois County, so. I wanted you all to know that so that the process can get going on the transition to a new sheriff and moving forward. I don't know if anyone has any questions about this.
Yeah, I just was, what is Clint's cell phone number? I just wanted to get in touch with him. That was all.
I can give you that
Yeah.
before you leave. Yep,
Sure.
for sure. On finance-related business, I told judicial yesterday, I was reapproached by Gilman. Gilman wants to give you a quick backstory on it. Months and months and months ago, Gilman and Anarga contacted me wanting to know about contracting. That led into Chairman Scherer becoming involved. We had several meetings on it. We talked, and eventually the meetings came to a halt, and everybody walked away. Well, we no longer met anymore because people walked away from the table. Most recently, there's been talk about getting those negotiations going again. However, Anarga has been late getting to the table, so to speak. Gilman has contacted me, the mayor and one of their city councilmen, aldermen contacted me. They want to sit down and talk, and regardless of Anarga's deal. Gilman wants to do a 40-hour-a-week contract with the sheriff's office. The sheriff provides a deputy over there for 40 hours a week. Off the top of my head, when we were talking, Gilman and Anarga and the county were all talking. At that point, we were talking 2 deputies plus equipment and all that, which roughly had about $160,000 price tag on it for 2 deputies, their salaries, their benefits, equipment, all that kind of stuff. So roughly, we're going to cut that in about half. It's going to be about $80,000. Gilman is wanting to know, A, if the county is interested in sitting down and talking again, and B, if the county would still be interested in covering 15% of the cost of that contract, which off the top of my head, $12,500, I think, somewhere in there, with the understanding that if something happens in close proximity to Gilman, while that county deputy is assigned to Gilman, that he can leave the village limits and handle calls outside of Gilman. So I wanted to bring that information to you. Judicial committee recommended that we get back to the table with them and talk. You know, it may come to an agreement, it may not, but at least get back to the table and talk about it. So I also wanted to bring it up to finance and see what your feelings were, and if finance feels the same, then Chairman Scherer and I can get a hold of the Gilman officials and we can sit down and start talking again.
One question on that.
Yes.
Do we need more people for that? So I guess,
We would hire a person, yes. So that 80,000 would include the salary, benefits, and equipment. We would probably, if this could be negotiated to a successful conclusion, we would probably be able to get a squad car fairly cheap. They have a SUV squad car that is relatively new with low miles on it, and they haven't had a police officer over there for a year now. They're willing in selling that, so we wouldn't have to necessarily negotiate purchasing a new squad car with them paying, for that. We could probably, all that would have to do is we'd run it up to our detailer, and he would take off the Gilman Police and put Iroquois County Sheriff on the side of it. But it's fully equipped. It's got lights, it's got council, it's got computer and computer docking station and all of that stuff. So, but yes, the 80,000 is hiring, the sheriff hiring a new deputy for that position, and that would cover salary, benefits, and the equipment they would use.
I think it makes sense, but I don't know what we need. Do we need to
I don't think there so much needs to be a motion or a vote on it. Just if I didn't want to start going through all this process and then come back to the county and say, hey, I think we got an agreement, and the board say, well, we're not, we're not interested in it. If you're interested, we'll sit down and start talking, and either myself or the chairman or both of us will give you updates on how that's going.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, great.
Very good.
Did Chad ever get a hold of you?
Yes, and I will. And on a side note on that, I've been contacted, I think it was shortly after the 4th of July. Cissna Park is in a position now where I believe they're looking at talking the possibility of a contract. They had a police officer there that they're not going to be using anymore. I don't know if he's retiring or what the situation was, but very brief conversation on what kind of costs are we looking at, and I told him that I would get back to him on it. That there is a possibility that Cissna Park may want to do something in the future as well.
Very good. Sounds good. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you.
Bree?
I'm going to talk to IT about this at the next meeting, but it's going to have somewhat of a financial impact on the IT budget next year, depending on how much it costs to do this. I don't know. But the clerk's office has to begin utilizing a .gov website address and .gov email addresses within 1 year of the effective date of Public Act 102-0015, which was the election omnibus bill that was passed, changing everything about the election. We're also required to do monthly vulnerability scans, which I'm not sure that we do monthly, but also endpoint detection and response security tools. So anyway, I'm not sure how much financially that's going to impact the budget. I'm going to assume it's not a terribly large amount, hoping we'll get money for it, but it's something that I need to talk to the IT committee about, and when my bookkeeper is here, because he can confirm what we do and what we don't, unless Jill can.
Is he here?
Yeah, you should be.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's
I
About
want to say we do monthly, but off the top of my head, it could be something else I'm thinking of.
I know, I
There's
couldn't
so many
remember,
different-
so I knew he would be able to answer that.
Does this mean we have to have another website? Or,
Well,
If we
the
could-
clerk's office has to utilize a .gov, so we can't use the co.iroquois.il.us unless they can add a .gov on the end of it.
See, can't foresee that being
Yeah, I don't.
the one issue is we have to develop another site, which, whatever we're paying Webfoot to do that.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know the ins and outs of how they can, if they can just switch us over to a .gov. I mean, I
Switch
don't
the
know.
whole county
Yeah,
to-
that'd be,
Right.
yeah.
Like, I have no idea. All I know is we have 1 year of the effective date to get it done.
Yeah.
So it's going to affect next year's budget.
Michael can give us some more.
When was the effective date? Sorry, say that.
June 17th of 2021, so 2022.
Okay. Eric.
All right, so ETSB met last night to discuss their budget. I'll discuss more of that when we get down to it. It does impact the joint dispatch budget. I think the finance committee should be fairly happy with it. So we'll see what you think when I present it. But
Okay,
we've had for quite some time to discuss it last night.
very good. John, you got anything else?
I don't know, Brandon, did you see that email from UCCI about, I believe something from the government feds about the census today at
Yes,
1 o'clock?
there's gonna be 2 release dates of information for the census numbers, one on, I believe, August 16th and one September 30th. And I didn't read the entire thing, they're gonna have a webinar on it, but they said that the information that is going to be released at those times is the exact same information, it's just in different formats. So I'm not 100% sure what that means.
I'm not either, I thought maybe you might.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to plan on trying to hook up on that webinar, but I don't know if it means how do you release the same data in 2 different formats? I really have no idea.
Well, yeah, if you can do that, because there's another webinar on land banks that I'm supposed to be involved with this afternoon. So.
Sure.
Okay, and I guess we'll move on to the budget hearing discussion. Jill gave you some extra papers here to put in your books. Probably the first one, the most important one, is I would say the general overhead summary. Looks like, Jill, you made another column, kind of updated it after our discussions last week there. It's highlighted gray. It says August 4th date on it. Looks like our general fund budget is $2,000 off right now in the hole. So that's, I would say, again, more kudos to Jill and everyone, that's the closest we've ever been at this point, I think. As long as I've been watching, which isn't very long, but pretty impressive. Okay. And some of that is probably a portion of that. I don't know. I was going to bring up the salary stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you should have another sheet. I had asked Jill in our last meeting there to put together this, which shows every year everybody uses different salary increases for the non-union contracts, and we generally align all those numbers. So you can see here, if you look at it, it has all the non-union employees listed, what their 2021 budgeted salary is, what was proposed in the actual budget submissions, and then and there's a line there where she's indicated how much of an increase everyone had assumed when they submitted their budgets. Mm-hmm. And then she also included a 2.5, what it would look like if everybody was at 2.5, 2.75, and 3%. That makes sense to everybody. And then in this new updated number, you have done, that's which number? Or we haven't adjusted that yet?
I didn't adjust it. It still has the proposed.
So it still has the proposed.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's still
So there's, the proposed number is a total of $783,000, which at 2.5% it'd be 781. So that would probably make up what the $2,000 shortfall now. Mm-hmm. 2.75, it's 284,000 and 85,000, and 3% would be seven. I keep saying 200. It's 784,000, 788,000 at 3%. So that would be a slight increase over what's in the budget numbers now. So I think generally at this time, or normally before the end of August, we kind of give direction or decide what that number is going to be. I guess I don't know if anyone has a feeling on that. Is everybody following what we're looking at here? Any comments? Or John, you got any thoughts, or anyone? Moral story is we definitely need to align the numbers and under some logic here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any new thoughts other than what I already said.
And last year we did 2.5.
2.75 because it
2.75.
was based off of, we kind of went with the ASME contract.
Okay. So if everyone was at 2.75, that's, again, that's $800 more than where the budget stands right now. So it's not totally. I would probably just say that given, we probably should at least do that. And, but, and that seems to be the number that most of these submissions were at
Yes.
in that neighborhood, so.
Mhm.
One thing, I guess, we probably need to come up with a total number. In addition to that, I know Jill had requested a 4% increase on hers, and I personally would say, I think this budget's a testimony to it, let alone the extent more auditing that we're doing, and she's doing a lot, I guess is what I'm trying to get to, and the IT and all the human resource stuff and all the finance stuff, and she's taking classes and like we've asked her to do and stuff, and I don't know what exactly the right way to do this is. I know we were paying Anita significantly more at the time, but probably need to, my personal feeling would be we need to set some targets or do something to put that more in line with what value that work has over time, because there's a lot of stuff around here that she's helping make sure it gets done on a day-to-day basis. But, I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, John, or?
No, I've echoed those thoughts before, so. It's something I think we need to establish for our benefit as well as Jill's.
I guess my thoughts were that, and I'm open to whatever, so anyway, it's not my opinion that matters, but I would say we probably need to be at the 2.75 to 3%, and I would set a target, this is me talking, of trying to get Jill in line eventually down the road, get her kind of like we do with Bob and some of the other employees that are department heads, that we try and get them more in line with where the elected officials are. Obviously, where she's at right now, that's not going to happen overnight, but I think longer term, that's probably the direction that position needs to have, would be my feeling. So I guess what I would propose, and that being said, would be we do the 4% and have everything else at the 2.75. But that's one proposal, and I'm not saying it's right. But I guess any of you guys have any thoughts, or even any other department heads, elected officials, whatever. That. Okay, well, then I'm good. Okay.
One thing that maybe should be considered is the employees that fall under the ASME contract are getting 4% this year.
If they're making over $13, or if they're making under $13 an hour.
That's correct.
If they're over $13 an hour, they're getting 2.75.
Right.
Okay. And out of the people that we're looking at here, nobody would fall into that category, so that would be in line with the ASME contract.
Yeah, with the 2.75.
Okay. And I don't know if we have to make a motion or what, but
Sheriff's got his hand.
oh, sorry, yes. Yes,
Since
sir.
you asked elected officials,
Yes.
my 2 cents on it is, you pay the position.
Right.
And if they have more responsibilities and they have more training and more things that they have to do, then you pay that position what it's worth.
Well, and I guess that's what you said it a lot clearer and better than what I was, but I think that's the reality, because
Absolutely.
doing all those things, you can't just hire anybody off the street. Now, there's a lot of jobs around here that are that way, but no, for sure. It's not just that, but
That way.
there's, especially any of these department heads, elected officials, not just anyone, employees
Yeah.
can just walk in and do that.
Training, that's what they need,
Exactly.
training.
And yes, definitely.
You know, I look at it when all the union negotiations I've been through on both sides of the table, as a union member and as a employer, that's one of the things that they'll always stress is the responsibilities, the training, what it is they have to go through, this and that. So I think you use the same mindset when you do it for department heads and other positions.
Okay. Then I would propose we set them at 2.75. Do I need to make a motion? I don't know how this works, but I'll make a motion that we set it at 2.75%, except for the finance director at 4%.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? I guess call the roll.
Alt,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
McTaggart.
Yes. Okay. That deals with that issue for now. The other adjustments to the budget that we had in there, the general overhead, so that one needs to be added to this, but on the back side of this general overhead summary, it showed we were off by $2,000, which is probably closer to $3,500, $4,000 now. There is, we had made adjustments for the county clerk fees. I don't,
It was originally 65,000. It was discussed that it could go to 75,000, which was a difference of 10,000.
Yep.
And then I talked to Brian about the transfers. 20,000 from county recorder was agreed upon. They did make a couple of adjustments with salaries just because we had some open positions, so it didn't necessarily need to include the increase for next year. It would just be their starting salary, but those are minor. It was $96. And then I took a look at IT systems expense, went ahead and cut 15,000 off of the systems expense and $9,335 off of the software contract licenses. Because two of those were for warranty renewals, and one item is what I'm proposing to get replaced for next year, and one did get replaced for this year, so we won't need that necessarily. The transfer to regional office, originally they had turned in a request of $81,030. I have since gotten a new request for $75,000, so that went down about $6,000. And then last night at the ETSB meeting, it was discussed that we could transfer over to Joint Dispatch 120.
okay. So that was an adjustment of $22,000, which had us go from the $30,500 down to where you see it on the front of the page.
Make the salary adjustment.
Two other things before we need to get to Eric here, but I was just thinking of, what day was it the county farm bid occurred?
Monday they were opened, and then on Tuesday,
Is when they,
yeah.
okay.
And I
That's
did not
obviously not
adjust.
approved by
Yes.
the full board and whatever, the contract is not approved. But based on the bidding and by my back of the napkin math,
Mhm.
if that is approved, what was bid, there would be an extra $41,734, give or take, related to that. So there's, yeah, that's, I guess, a good thing for the county. That was a significant increase, $105 per acre. So that would be, if that's approved, that would be a definite help to our efforts. And anyways, so we probably need to make a memo or a note that we need to deal with that issue in the next update that we do. Another thing we're still waiting on is IDA. We need to get back with them.
Yeah,
She's supposed to get back with us here before the September meeting, I think.
I currently have the transfer, I believe it's the same as this year.
It's probably fine, but I just, based on when she was here, I kind of felt like she was gonna ask for a lot more money, so we probably need to,
Well,
17,000.
that's what it felt like. I'm not saying she was, but
historically, it's been 25. Last year, I suggested we reduce it because of the uncertainty about the virus. So the question is if we're gonna keep it at 17.5 or go back to the 25 that it was before. I think that's the two
okay. Well,
questions
that's,
that you're looking at on that issue.
all right, well, yeah, so we probably have an $8,000 exposure there, so we're, we added 41,000 and took out, and we're still 4 in the hole, so that's 37, and then we had to give them.
That 41,000 is over 3 years.
Well, that's per year.
Oh, it's per year? Okay,
It's
I
actually
got it mixed up. I got it mixed up between the first and second bid.
For 3 years.
Yeah, sorry.
I believe, yeah, I think that should be right. We'd be at about 37 positive on the general fund. We would be
Still a lot of money.
37 positive on the general fund and about 4 in the hole, so we'd be about positive 33 roughly, give or take a little bit, with those items. Okay. What am I missing, Jill? Is that where we're at?
That's where we're at. No changes to the insurance, because I already knew the cap was on there, so that's included on the budgets as of now. Next month we'll know more, because we're gonna open bids and take a look at if we're gonna stay with who we currently have, or if there's a better offer.
I guess last year they gave us that money to help compensate for that, but do we believe that they might do something like that again? I felt
don't.
like last time when she was here, she kind of, not today, but the time before,
Right.
there was some alluding to they might be willing to do something, but maybe
You know, Susie works wonders, so I'm not sure where that's gonna land. If they ended up giving us a cap, they may not do anything like that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
Okay. Anything else on that? Eric, give us an update.
Jill, did you get a chance to print out updated copies since last night? I'm
No.
assuming no.
No, because I wasn't there for the entire discussion, so I don't know if anything else changed.
Take one, pass them around, be sure that John gets a copy of it as well, please. So I'll start off with joint dispatch, since that's going to be the most important thing. ETSB has made the decision that they're going to contribute $280,000 so far. They do not have a finalized budget yet. They're kind of bringing this to the table for all of you to talk about it. Should be 2 pages per.
Oh.
Yeah, there's 3 C's.
Thank you, Jill.
No, you're fine.
I need one more.
Which one do you
You
need?
need C. There you go.
And Charlie needs a joint dispatch.
That's the one I got.
Charlie, you need a 3.
Okay, phase three, okay.
So this, Jeremy Douglas, Chief Douglas, sits on the ETSB as well, so he was able to report on how much the city of Watsika had already budgeted for this, since their budget here runs from May to April. So he had said that they had already decided on 120,000 when they finalized their budget. So they're already kind of set in place for this. So it was reduced down to 120 for both the city of Watsika as well as Iroquois County. 280 is being contributed from the ETSB. And then transfer from public safety tax is the remaining amounts at $52,975.37. Questions with that so far?
No.
Okay. Now I'm going to move you over to the ETSB's budget. The ETSB budget, Michael, I had heard your comments in the second round about the 6 months, at least for trying to maintain a budget and kind of a target budget. So
yeah.
They're working on trying to set a target budget. Now with Kurt's suggestion of maybe 2 years, the $1 million might be, in the bank account, might be appropriate. We're going to wait and see where Jill comes up with research. I know she's still working on that.
Okay.
So if the $1 million is accurate at keeping an operating expense of 2 years, then our budget is perfect. But we're going to spend down some of it. So the changes, the department head salary, they made a motion at 2.5%, which brings it to the 61,146.38. The change to the joint dispatch at 280,000, and now we have a purchase of equipment at 170,000. This is incredibly important to you. The capital expense that was passed out at the second budget hearing.
Yep.
There was $200,000 budgeted for CAD and jail software. 60,000 of this was going to be the sheriff's portion for the jail.
Okay.
We are not tracking that inside of this budget, allowing for the finance committee to determine where those funds come from. If you want to pull it from public safety tax or somewhere within the general fund, or if sheriff has any ideas. I'm sorry, I'm blindsiding sheriff at the same time with this, but this all happened last night at close to 8 o'clock at night when everything all finalized. So.
And you have to take it through the bid process again, so that number could change.
That number could change, positive or negative. Hopefully it goes the downward ways, but that doesn't seem the way the universe works when dealing with pricing. But our current bid that we were intending to select was at 183,000. The 200,000 is put in there just to solely buffer that. So there stands to be a good possibility that it could be closer to the 50,000 rather than the 60,000. Cannot 100% say one way or the other until we have bids in hand and are ready to select. Of course,
so there was, what was the extra 30,000? This is the
30,000 is
system?
for a fire suppression system. It is not a sprinkler system. It is going to be for the server room that we have in place. We are planning to put in the new public safety software system. That's going to have its own separate server. That is intended to go in there. Plus we have our recorder, phones, radios, all in there, and right now all we have is a heat sensor. So we need to mitigate some of that, and that's what that 30,000 additional is for.
So there's 60,000 that the county would need to come up with if this software is put in.
Correct.
Well, we don't know, because it hasn't been through the bid process.
Oh, that's it.
I haven't seen any papers.
The expectation is potentially up to. But again, as Jill was saying, we don't have a bid in hand to say for certain what that portion is going to be.
Okay.
Ultimately arriving at a negative budget of $156,571.38.
Okay, well, I think at least on the general fund stuff, that looks aligned with what we had put it to second, or have in there, and what
Jill was
Watsika's.
immensely helpful in the meeting last night to help us arrive to that number.
There you go. And sounds like Watsika, it's back to where it was pre-COVID level, and it's in line with what Watsika's able to do based on their budget. So I think on the joint dispatch stuff, that probably makes sense. We just need to figure out on this software, I guess. And I guess I don't 100% know.
There may be some minor adjustment needed, or unless, well, I guess we could leave it there, but transfer from the police to, we have to. I think that's including some money from Gilman right now, and
It is.
not sure where that number, where that situation will end up, but we may have to recognize some, few $1,000s there.
That's part of the contract. Okay. I guess that being said, there's that aspect, but also, going back to the general fund, depending on what happens with that negotiation, I would like for it to be budget neutral with the Gilman thing or System Park or whatever, but if there is a portion of that the county needs to pony up, then, which is where the discussions were last time, then we would have exposure on that as well, so 12, 15,000, whatever that number was. But we need to make a note that we don't forget about that part too.
Right now, your transfer.
Thinking we're way far ahead, but we might not be.
Right now, your transfer to police is at 18.5 roughly, and that's divided amongst all the village police departments, so
I think Gilman's portion was like 2,300.
something around there. I believe System Park probably wasn't too far from that, since they both have 1 to 2 officers on their rosters.
So we need to get that, keep that in the front of our mind or on our list of things we gotta make sure we get nailed down, but, okay.
One last portion
Yep.
is, depending on what you decide to do with the 60, if you are on board with joining us in the changeover in software, it would be around that. The alternative option is you could hold the sheriff's portion back, and this is going to take a little discussion on the ETSB side, but my suggestion would be the current server that is already in place, essentially that would be gifted to the sheriff's office / county. After that, you'd be responsible for all of the maintenance and so on for it. All of ETSB's stuff would be removed from there. We would have no use for that server. Right now, the maintenance for it's about $9,000. I would expect that it could probably be around the $6,000 per quarter. Best guess, can't tell you without looking at some numbers right at the moment of annual, and they do have a steady annual increase with it. So it gets.
What's the annual fees, I guess, for if we did do it I guess how would the annual fees be handled on that?
The annual fees, once the ETSB is off of the server, right now we're paying about $9,000 a quarter. I'm expecting that obviously the CAD portion of that would no longer need to be paid for since we wouldn't be utilizing CAD at that point. So it would be just all of the rest of the maintenance and jail software that would be on there. I would hazard and I may be way off on this one, but probably a basic guess at about $6,000 a quarter.
Sorry,
So it's
I got that
$4,000
part,
a year.
but what's the fee for the new system, if everybody goes to the new system?
I do not recall what the maintenance fees were in there. Obviously, when we start going into bid with this one, we'd include the sheriff, whoever's appointed at that point, to join into the party so they have an idea of what's going to be impacting the budget, and we'll be able to include the finance committee in as well to determine what that maintenance fee is really going to turn into.
I guess what I'm getting at is if we do this all together, are you planning on, I assume right now you guys pay that full 27,000? Are you planning to pay,
We would
36,000?
we would go shares into it, so the
Is
ETSB
that what
would
we
take
do
care
now?
of its CAD
That's
portion.
what they have been
It is
doing.
what's happening right now today. The jail software, which you can see transferred from the sheriff at $6,000 in the ETSB budget.
Okay,
That is for the maintenance of the jail software. We would do something similar to that, so whatever is portioned to the sheriff's office at that point would be sent over. Right now, what we do is ETSB pays the maintenance in full, and the sheriff's office transfers as appropriate
Okay,
once we receive that bill.
understood.
Mr. Finance Chairman?
Yes,
A
yep,
quick question. Last finance meeting, I don't think Eric was here, and I'm no longer on the board at ETSB or anything. The software, I know last year we talked about it, and now we're talking about it this year. Is it for my information, have they given us a, like, drop dead date of, you need to do something with this software, otherwise it's going to be supported?
They have not given us a sunset date
Okay.
at this time. Number one, the software is 20 years old. As far as software,
But 20 years with updates. They
With
they do
updates.
updates and stuff, okay.
and the updates that we are now presently getting are state and federal mandates. We're not getting anything new with the system, for lack of better words, bells and whistles,
Okay.
that may be appropriate to what we're doing here.
Okay.
We're not seeing any of that. We're not going to see any of that. So is there an eventual in the future? My crystal ball's broke just like yours, so I don't know when that date's going to happen either. This is a proactive approach with the software being 20 years. It's eventually going to happen. The company, Central Square, is a capitalist company. They continually buy, and then eventually they're going to go in and sunset some of the older products that really aren't making a whole bunch of dollars. When that date's going to happen, I have no idea yet. They have not talked about it yet. But they have sunset some of their other platforms, and this one's on the older generations of what they do have.
I guess I'll just, along that line, and I'll say it, we all know, I've said it 10, 15 times, but this is the same company we were looking at this year buying the new software from. And my thing has been, since that moment, that if they're not gonna give us fair warning to when the sunset's coming and give us ample time to update to something, we definitely don't wanna buy the new system from them. If they're not gonna do that, give us that opportunity to update in a reasonable amount of time before fair warning that they're not gonna service the thing anymore. That, if that's the kind of company we're dealing with, we don't wanna give them another $170,000 and another
I'd fall
$40,000 a
directly
year.
in line with what you're saying. I mean, any company that's worth their weight in salt should be giving you a reasonable opportunity. Hey, this is ending, you have a year or a year and a half. Now's your opportunity.
Have you ever asked them when they think that's gonna happen?
Nobody's giving me any answers. I've asked it on a couple of occasions.
Well, my biggest thing is, I'm looking at it from a numbers aspect. There's no new bids brought to the table. We have no idea essentially where their numbers went, and we all know with COVID, look at lumber. Everything has been crazy up and down, and I'm just a little concerned that once you do go through the bid process and whatever the case may be, that it comes back and the numbers are totally wrong. And we have to come up with even more money to pay for a system. I guess in the long run, I feel like it's not ready to be approved because we don't have any numbers, we don't have any bids. That should have probably been done prior to this, just so we had an idea of where we're at. And then most companies will lock in their bid for so many days to allow you to do that. That's my concern from a money aspect.
If we wanted to go that route with it, that should have been a direction I should have received around the January timeframe when we were making that decision and then looking forward to our FY22 budget. That type of suggestion would be very appreciated at that time so the ETSB could plan and play ball with the county at that point again. Here we are
And I
nonetheless.
didn't think it needed to be suggested, because 9 times out of 10 when things are brought to these budget hearings, for example, last year with the phone systems, I had bids in hand, so I had numbers. So I apologize.
I know we can't kick the can down the road forever. I guess my concern as sheriff or asking about it is, for instance, the squad car computers we had, Verizon came to us and said, December 31st of, I think it was 2019 or 2018, you have to have no more CDMA. We're not going to support that. It has to be LTE, 4G, or better. So we bought computers going that year so that by the end of the year we were ready. If I would assume, and maybe it's wrong, that Central Square would contact us saying, hey, the software you have is going to be outgoing at this date, so plan ahead and get something done. And it just kind of seems like we called them and said we want new software rather than them calling us saying your software is out of date and you need to do something about it. And that's, I'm not saying being proactive is a bad thing, and I wouldn't suggest kicking the can down the road until the last foot, but if I would feel more comfortable if someone from Central Square or if Eric could get the answer that, as Mr. McTaggart said, is there a date? Can you give us an estimation? Is it a year? Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? Somewhere that we can, you know, and I'm kind of old school. I like how the system works right now, and I think it works very well. I know change is coming, and change will have to come at some point, but if that change doesn't have to come for a few years down the road, maybe that's best, maybe not, I don't know. But I guess we don't have those answers.
Can be certainly something that can reach out to Central Square and see if.
Why don't we do that, and then, why don't we do that ahead of this next month?
Willing to, the bid that you currently have, if they're willing to, you know, say that, hey, this is.
Or at least give us a
Right.
commitment number if it's not the
Right.
one that we.
Right.
Well, I mean, if they just did the bid a year ago, I mean, they can't
They
be
may honor it.
drastically different. I mean, the
Like I said,
work
they're
for them to
careful.
develop the bid can't be, okay, yeah, this item went up 2% and this one went up,
Right.
whatever. I mean, you'd think that updating that bid could be done fairly quickly because it's not like they're starting from scratch
Right.
tomorrow morning or something, you know, they're just gonna refresh the old bid. Then we know better on that too, so maybe,
I can't foresee them challenging us
Yeah.
too much on this.
yes.
I guess one question I have is if Eric says that we may be missing out on some updates, is that causing us any harm or loss of?
That too.
Well, he also
activity or
said
whatever?
that you're getting the federal
I'm
and
getting the
state.
state and federal.
But what is
later.
missing is
Talking
some
about
of the
the
bells
other,
and
if we're
whistles.
missing out on other updates, is that causing us any problems or issues?
Without having a new system in place, it really can't fully answer that type of question. And the reason for it is, well, yes, we know what kind of bells and whistles are in there, but how they will work and how they will impact our workload, whether it's over at 911 or even on the jail software, we really won't know until we start using and training into that system to find out what's going to work best for us and hopefully speed up our day.
So if we're saying we can get along without whatever updates we're missing, then that's not an issue.
Can we work today and function today as we are? My answer is yes. Sheriff has already said that with his jail software. I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is we have a platform that is on the older side. While it is still being supported, it's a proactive approach that I'm bringing to the ETSB. It can certainly change and go other directions. This is not something that is specific that the county absolutely has to go down this path with the ETSB. It will be ultimately cheaper at the end of the day. You'll probably spend about double if you go on the platform alone and then go into it, but there's also the opportunity that the database that we have is a single database. Everything that sits on said database, whatever we enter in on the dispatch side is also available and visible to the jail side when they go in to book something, for example. Same goes for investigations. They can grab that information and go from there as well. So they have the startup work that's already been done, so everybody's not trying to enter things 2 and 3 times or more.
I guess, how does it, you two are on the ETSB board and I couldn't make a meeting last night, but what's their feeling? I mean, is this just I guess, how do you guys feel, Charlie or Joe or whatever?
Which aspect of it?
Is it necessary? I mean, so I think what the sheriff's raising, and is similar in line what I've been raising, is that, okay, we're doing this because we want bells and whistles.
No, I don't think we're doing those bells and whistles. I can see a difference between the sheriff's department when he says he can run a car a little extra long because he's got other car backups. You know, in his improvements projects. Ours, we only have 191 system. We have to answer that phone call.
Right.
That's why we have to
But
be.
by all accounts, it's functioning correctly. It's being serviced by the company. They've given us no indication that they're done with it.
We didn't get too much of a discussion on that part, in my opinion, did we, Joe? But I think we don't want to, like you say, work with a company that drops us off and now you have to do this.
Right,
or
so
this one.
that's-
I don't think we deal that way at all.
Right.
I don't want to deal that way at all, no kidding.
Me either. So that's,
I don't
and
think
if we
we-
think they're that company, then we need to throw
Yeah.
out that bid.
That just goes with my thoughts about, we have one line coming in. We gotta think about it long-term. People that will give us advance notice of when we need to do stuff. Simple as that. Same, we agree with you.
Good. So I guess
You wanna add to that, Joe? Go right ahead.
if they're not giving us notice that we need to do it, then by that logic, if we're confident that they're a good company that's servicing the product and it's working, and they're gonna give us advance notice, because otherwise we wouldn't wanna work with them.
Yeah.
I guess my feeling, maybe just being a tight butt, is then today's not the day that we need to do this, because we got election software that's, since I've been on this board, has been held together by shoelaces and duct tape. And to me, sounds like a critical problem. This sounds like, yeah, if we had endless amounts of money, maybe not a horrible idea, but not really needed. And I guess I haven't been convinced that it is, because it's still being serviced. We're getting all the federal and state updates, and we're confident the company's a good company that's going to give us fair notice when that day's going to end. So it's kind of like, why jump the gun? Hell, normally, maybe it's a bad thing, but normally at this time of the year in the budget process, we're off by $300,000 and trying to figure out how many pens and paper we can get rid of. And here we're jumping the gun and trying to, by contrast, it feels like we're going in the other direction of, we got money, let's spend it. Maybe there's a piece I'm missing, but it just seems wasteful to me. It does. That's just how it comes across, and that's not trying to be insulting. It just seems like that's not the way this county's been running since I've been around it, and I think that's a good thing that the county isn't run that way. That's why we're one of the only counties that has a balanced budget and no debt out of the entire state.
I don't feel that your opinion's insulting by any means. So, sure, I'm sorry, I'm just picking on, for example, your vehicles, what, 200,000 miles sometimes before they get retired?
We try not to get to there, but close to it. Yeah.
You get in that range. So, I mean, unless you're a farmer that usually goes 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 miles with your truck, your farm truck, once you get to a certain point with that vehicle, there's a stopping point where you go, what else is going to start feeling? Am I going to start getting into large mechanical problems, etc.? He has a fleet, and this is what Charlie is talking to. There's a fleet of 15-inch vehicles. We have one CAT system.
Well, it's like,
But we aren't getting two, so we still got the same risk at any moment in time for the rest of eternity. I mean, the risk is not lessened. Just because it's new doesn't make that risk go away. I mean, that risk will inherently be there forever.
that's really true. I've seen somebody out in the field with a brand new planter.
Exactly.
And he's in
Can't
trouble.
move.
He's in trouble, right?
Yeah, exactly. I guess I understand where you're kind of coming from, that, yeah, we don't want the thing to be broke, but that goes back to my fundamental thing, which it sounds like Charlie agrees with. If the company isn't going to be there to bail us out of a bad situation, if the wheels fall off, and we don't have 1,000% confidence in that, then we sure as hell don't want to buy a new one from them for $200,000. We want to run from them. But if we feel good about them and we think they're a good company and they've been a good company for 20 years and they're giving us updates, I mean, to me, obviously maybe it's not the same because they're not updating capability, but Windows and every software in the world is constantly updating at all times. And as long as they're doing that, it's functioning and they support us when we got a problem. I don't know that a new one's gonna stop us from the walls crashing or the system falling down.
Do the upgrades cost us, or is that part of the maintenance agreement?
Part of the maintenance plan.
Okay.
Maintenance plan.
If
So
the system totally crashed, what would happen? We switch to CANCOM?
if our CAD system were to totally crash today, we can do that. We can also operate on paper because we'll still have access to our phones. We'll still have access to the radios. So yes, we could ultimately, at the end of the day, still operate and function as 911. Some of the things that we would not have with the CAD system is like routine checks, for example. We would not get an automated alarm that would come in. So, for example, when sheriff's men are out on there doing a traffic stop, every 5 minutes, like clockwork, we're checking on them, making sure they're okay. Do we need to get another officer over there for whatever reasons because they're not responding, so on and so forth. There's other alarms and there's other automation that's inside of it, including maintaining what's where. So if I've got 3 deputies out on the traffic stop near Gilman, great. I know they're all 3 out there, the tracking's there for it. It's nice, easy, visible to see. Can it still be done by paper? Absolutely.
If it crashed, how long would it take to get it back up? Have you ever asked about that?
That would depend on what kind of crash we dealt with. If
Say
it was a
total
full
wipeout.
operating system crash, then I'd be tapping on Michael Tabor's shoulder to go, what kind of backups do we have and how can we get them implemented? If it was the actual system itself that crashed, let's just pretend that it's the actual software itself. It could be a day, it could be a week. It really depends on the level of actual crash and what's going on. If we start dealing with ransomware.
I guess to that point, but that can happen with any software at any moment of any time. Is that because it's new doesn't eliminate that risk? I mean, in fact, this one's not done that in 20 years, and we're doing little upgrades. To me, it's probably more stable and reliable. It's like having the old trusty Rusty here. I mean, I don't know. And maybe Michael can add to that. You're here and you're the IT consultant for the county.
It depends on the situation. With disaster recovery planning, you have to look at each possible thing that could happen, building fire, theft, destruction, ransomware, data corruption. Each situation has a different response to it. So,
well, I understand,
but your question was, is the old one more vulnerable or less vulnerable than the new one? I would say they're, as far as attacks go or data corruption goes, they're the same of opportunity for something bad to happen.
And in your experience dealing with this on a day-to-day basis,
Servers.
well, yeah, okay, servers obviously are important in the hardware associated, but what I was going to ask is dealing with companies and the elimination or shutting down of a certain software. I mean, what kind of warning is that, I mean, surely we'd get fair notice that, hey, 2 or 3 years from now, or hopefully more than a year, I don't know, how do they do that?
Let's take, for example, Microsoft products. So
Yes.
they'll give you end of life notice, and typically you'll know it before you even buy the product, and they'll say this product that you bought after this year, you will get no support, you'll get no security updates.
They've already planned on it the day they release it.
But if something goes wrong with it,
You're on your own.
out. Just like the phone system, when it had hardware failures and fried equipment, it was past that date where no one would be able to help repair it. So there's dates and that information depending on what the situation is.
So more than likely, whatever this company's name is again, they should be able to tell us this. I mean, and if they don't have a date in mind, they're presumably continuing.
Right, as far as the question with running on the current system, they should be able to tell us, you know, is it still supported, is it still getting, this and that, and if something goes wrong with it, are you still able to help us fix it? We've had, companies that, you know, they update their equipment, their software, and if something bad happens, they get support, they get assistance, but we've had situations where they don't update or replace their old equipment, something happens, and there's, you know, everyone that knew the old system or was certified with the old system is literally no longer there, or not even alive anymore, and there's no one that knows how to fix that, or to have someone go in there and learn the old system and to fix it would just be, you know,
But, right.
But
we're not talking-
There is a point where old is not good.
My personal feeling is this type of discussion, and we need to get clear with the company about these things.
And I
Because
think with
if we got one guy that he's the only guy, I mean, do they got a staff? I don't know. Just like what you're saying. Is there one guy, and if he gets hit by a bus tomorrow, the whole system's on the brink? I can't imagine a company that's supplying government agencies, 911 centers, sheriff's departments, and so on. And quite frankly, we're like this big in the scheme of the world, that if these are in other places, that if they went down and they didn't, I mean, our call volume compared to a highly populated county is this big, and I just can't imagine they could operate as a company and allow it to be that loose end where, oh, if Bill doesn't show up today for work, the system may go down. Maybe I'm wrong, but if that is them, again, we probably should need to get away from them. And we don't want their new product either.
Yeah, they should be able to work with Eric and get us that information if we don't want to.
I think we can ask them and see if they have determined information at that point.
That would be good.
Report back. One last question for you, Michael. Outside of our Microsofts of the world that are multi-billion-dollar organizations, but looking at our smaller software companies and vendors, do you feel there is a kind of maximum with how long you should stick with the software, other than some of the examples that we gave?
Yeah.
Bob over here is 95 years old. He can't really pop into the system remotely and do things anymore.
Right.
But something that's still midline.
No, you make a great point. You know, my example was with Microsoft. You know, they're huge, and they have everything lined out to the T. When you get down to the smaller and smaller software solutions, they might not have everything put together. They might not have all that information to provide for you, or they might not even have had that issue happen ever in their past, so they've never asked about it. So with some software solutions that are very small company, sometimes they just don't have the expertise, or they just have never you know, completed all that background paperwork that a bigger company would have. So definitely asking the question, and if they come back with no answer, would be concerning. But that's what you get sometimes with a smaller software company. Again, I don't know how big this company is.
Yeah, they've grown.
I would
quite
assume
quickly.
they're not as big as Microsoft, but they're.
And that's why I said a couple of other vendors that I talked to, they call them a capitalist company because we're looking to start wrapping something.
And they provide software services to numerous law enforcement agencies, 911 centers.
That's what we like
So
to
it's
hear.
not like they're,
A mom and pop.
the Iroquois County is their only
Right.
account for.
Which is,
That's what we.
I mean, if you're in a position like that, there's a certain legal and liability concern that if they just fell off the face of the earth tomorrow and all of a sudden 911 centers and jails are without software indefinitely, not that that couldn't happen, I guess, with any company. I mean, their Enron came down, but
It does happen.
but I guess long story short, maybe if we can try and get to the bottom of that, and Michael, I know you're busy and stuff, maybe
No, I can know that.
if you could help, I think it would help ETSB to know some of those things, and you have experience on the right, I mean, Eric knows about, obviously, the software upfront and personal, but like, your knowledge of just dealing with these software companies and how they do that, if you wouldn't mind maybe working with them, and next month we can kind of get to that, and then also, the other thing I would ask is, if, okay, the budget, to Jill's point, can they update their proposal, if that's what we're gonna consider, and see if they can refresh those numbers? Hopefully that wouldn't be a big exercise for them, and they can do it fairly timely, and then we'll know, okay, where are we at, what is the deal with this company, what's their sunset plans and all those things, or hopefully have good answers on that, and depending on what those indicate to us, like, oh yes, we better do something now, or not, but at least we'll have better information on the exact numbers and stuff. And
I could add one more thing to it,
Yes.
and I think we'll probably be done with that. Central Square, when they presented their quote to us, was the second lowest. We had received other quotes that were considerably higher, all the way up into about $500,000 range. So the ETSB did not appear to be interested in those at the same time, and I probably feel the county would be somewhere in the same boat with them on that. So
we like cheap, but if it's a risk, I mean, if it's a system.
My thing is, I like functional.
Sure.
So I don't necessarily want to go with the cheapest product. I don't necessarily feel that we need to go to the most expensive item.
Right. And I guess that goes back to the heart of what Charlie and I were discussing, is that we want a company that we can rely on that's going to be there and stuff. And if that's them and they got a good bid, that's the best scenario. If they look like they're counting on some guy that might not show up tomorrow, then the cheap bid might not be worth it. So I think if we can get to the bottom of all those things here in the next month, that would be a great help.
You could pay for that cheap bid several times.
Right, well, exactly. So, okay.
Appreciate your time.
We good? Yes, thank you. Then,
The health department they haven't had their meeting yet, so
very good.
Thank you.
they'll present when they have theirs finalized. But
I would say, do we feel like, I don't think so, that we need, typically we've had a meeting in like the last week of August ahead of our normal September finance meeting, but we're normally also have a big, massive gap at this point, and we're not really in that position. So my feeling was, unless Jill or somebody else says otherwise, I'd say we just continue the budget stuff next September finance meeting. Okay. We'll do that, and any other things we need to follow up? One thing we need to get to the bottom of.
they'll be open at next meeting, yes.
Okay, so we'll have insurance proposals next meeting. The other thing is, we need to get to public safety. Quite frankly, I'd almost like to have some thoughts on this ETSB stuff and all that kind of stuff first before we got too far in that, because obviously that's one part of it and the sheriff's the other part, and we've talked about having long-term planning on that and stuff, so maybe we can we definitely need to talk about the public safety next month and get that kind of more firmed up. Anything else? Okay, if not, we can go on to the claims. And there's an extra one here, recorder automation.
For a proven bill that was skipped over, which are there other departments that are gonna present before county board, Jill?
I've only had myself, you, and one other department turn in.
Okay.
Two of them made them on the report, and then I got yours this
Okay.
morning.
So somehow, a proven claim from April to June,
April to June, yes.
was missed by, well, every department, cause we've already paid the September claim, so.
How much is
Anyway,
it?
this is just a make out
$373.
regular,
$373.
Okay.
Yeah, for some
the regular
reason,
amount we pay per quarter.
either, I mean, we didn't get the invoice, or,
Right, something happened.
I don't know.
It's for the copiers and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, copier maintenance, ongoing stuff, so it's pretty
pay it.
cut and dry. And then you should have the list of all
Thank
the
you
other
for not
items.
sending it earlier.
Now it's
Anybody has questions on
We never got
those?
That's the transfer to ICANN, that was approved in the budget. I usually do that in August.
Okay.
I move we accept the claim.
Okay. Have a motion to pay the claims
Recommend the county board approval, I guess.
with county board approval. Seconded by Steve. Guess we can call the roll, or is there any other comments? If not, we'll call the roll.
Alt,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
McTaggart.
Yes. Okay, and then we're on to old business or new business. Not, we have a motion to adjourn.
Ernie?
Ernie and Joe,
Wake
all in
up,
favor?
Ernie.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
She's your bossy